The movie begins with a voiceover from a young boy saying, "This is a very strange story and not many people know about it. Believe it or not, this is a true story that happened in my city 2 years ago. What happened you won't find written in the news or anywhere else because the police and the big people back then were so embarrassed that they covered everything up. But if you came here and asked anyone, they'd tell you the same thing I'm about to tell you now." This story started at an elementary school called Mabel. It was just a normal Wednesday. All the classrooms were full of kids except for one, Miss Candy's class, the new teacher. The classroom was empty except for one boy named Alex Lilly. And the rest, they disappeared. The night before, exactly at 2:17 a.m., all the other kids woke up from their sleep, got out of bed, opened the front door, and walked into the darkness. And no one ever saw them again. The cameras caught them walking, but no one knew where they went. The police questioned Alex and the teacher, but no one knew anything. The school was shut down for a whole month, and when they decided to reopen it, they held a big meeting so people could learn how to deal with what happened. And right here, the real story begins. Chapter 1. Justine. The first chapter is about Justine. We see her sitting at a parents' meeting looking sad and shocked by what happened. He adds that Miss Candy needs to speak. Indeed, Miss Candy steps onto the stage telling them she had nothing to do with what happened. But the attendees get angry at her and the principal gets her out of there and calms them down. After that, Miss Candy goes to a market and there a young man begging opens the door for her, but she doesn't acknowledge him. And focus with me, dear viewer, because this beggar will come back later and play an important role in the events. Miss Candy receives a call from an unknown person threatening her. But she gets scared, hangs up, and leaves while still shaken. She goes home and is surprised to hear someone knocking on her door. When she asks who it is, no one answers. The knocking happens again and again. There's no response when she asks who it is. Even when she looks through the peephole, she doesn't see anyone. But as soon as she opens the door and steps outside, there's no one there. And she finds the word witch written on her car. It's clear that someone from the families of the missing kids wrote it, believing Miss Candy had something to do with their disappearance. The school principal tells Miss Justine Candy that she has to be patient because it's natural for the parents of the missing children to feel angry. He also asks her not to talk to anyone about what happened. Even though Miss Candy requests to go to student Alex and question him, the principal tells her to leave the boy alone and warns her not to approach him because the investigators already did their job and found no suspicion regarding the boy or his family. Still, Miss Justine Candy doesn't feel at ease and continues to have doubts. After school, she sees Alex leaving and watches him, wondering what he might be hiding. Later, she files a report with a police officer about what happened to her car. At that moment, she spots her ex-boyfriend Paul and waves at him. That night, Paul comes over to the bar where she is, and we find out they haven't seen each other in a long time because they were in a relationship, broke up, and Paul got involved with another woman after Candy. Strangely enough, Candy, like most women, keeps blaming him, telling him it was his fault the relationship failed. Because, dear viewer, no woman ever admits her mistake. The important thing is Paul gets drunk and drinks whiskey, and we find out that he went back with Candy to her place and they slept together. The next day, while they're in the car, they talk about the case of the 17 kids who suddenly disappeared, and no one knows why. Candy tells Paul that she feels something is wrong and is thinking about investigating the case herself. But Paul tells her she should drop it and leave it to the investigators. Then he gets out of the car. But Candy disagrees and keeps following the school bus because she wants to question Alex. She needs to know how he was the only kid in the class who didn't disappear like the rest of the students. She eventually gets to his house and knocks on the door, but no one answers. When she checks the windows, she notices they're all covered with newspaper, making it clear that whoever's inside doesn't want anyone outside to see what's going on inside. Justine Candy moves closer to a small gap in one window trying to get a peek inside. And she's shocked to see a man and a woman sitting together looking extremely creepy. Later, she goes to a supermarket where Paul's girlfriend shows up, attacks her, and warns her to stay away from her boyfriend. But Candy tells her that Paul said he'd already broken up with her. Thankfully, the supermarket owner rescues Candy, and she gets away safely, heading back home. That night, while sleeping, she dreams she's inside the classroom at school. It's dark. All the students are there, but they're lying on their desks in a strange way. Alex is the only one who lifts his head, and his face looks terrifying. When Candy wakes up, she sees a scary figure on the ceiling, and she's terrified. Then suddenly the figure vanishes. The next day, she tries to stop Alex and talk to him, asking him about what happened. But his answers are all strange, like he's either hiding something or someone is stopping him from speaking to her or saying anything at all. Candy knocks on the door again, but still no one answers. She sits in her car for a while watching the house, but eventually she drifts off to sleep. And strangely enough, we see the door open and a creepy-looking woman comes out holding a pair of scissors. She manages to get into Candy's car and cut a lock of her hair. After that, we move to the second chapter of the movie, which is about Archer. Archer is the father of one of the boys who disappeared along with the rest of the missing students. He's investigating the case of his son's disappearance and the other kids on his own, even though he works as an engineer, and this isn't his field at all. We see him watching footage of his son running away from home toward the forest. Archer then goes to the police station to ask the sheriff what they found, but the sheriff tells him they're working on it and he doesn't need to know the details. Archer wonders why they're not using dogs to search for the kids, and he's clearly unhappy with the laziness and lack of action from the police. Archer tells them they should investigate Miss Candy because she has a bad past. She once committed a traffic violation and was fired from a previous school. But the sheriff tells him to stay out of it and not to interfere with their work, warning him not to go near Miss Candy. Then we go back to the meeting from earlier and we learn that it was Archer who stirred the crowd against Miss Candy. After the principal rushed her out, we see Archer heading off in a different direction. That night, he watches the footage of his son running away from home again, trying to spot anything unusual. He wakes up in the middle of the night and sees his son, Matthew, sneaking out toward the forest. Archer tries to run after him to catch up, but can't. He notices the time above the house Matthew enters, 2:17 a.m., the exact time the kids disappeared. He follows his son inside and finds him lying down covered with a blanket. Suddenly, his son's face transforms into a terrifying one, and we realize Archer was dreaming. He then pulls out a map of the neighborhood, trying to figure out the direction the kids went. To get more accurate information, he goes to the home of another boy who disappeared. He asks the boy's father if he can see the footage from the camera that caught his son running away. When he watches the video, he notices something very important: the spacing between the tiles on the sidewalk. Using that clue, he's able to pinpoint the exact direction the boy ran in. We then see that the direction leads to a specific house. Archer drives to Miss Candy's place to talk to her, but she refuses to speak with him and tells him to stay away. Suddenly, the school principal appears, running in the exact same way the kids were seen running when they disappeared. He attacks Miss Candy, and Archer tries to defend her and fight him off. It's clear that the principal is somehow under a spell, obsessed with going after Miss Candy to finish her off. We cut here and move to the third chapter of the movie, which focuses on Paul. Paul is on the phone with his wife, who tells him she's traveling and will be back in a few days. She warns him not to drink any alcohol because of his health condition. After leaving the police station, we see Miss Candy waving at him. Later, while on patrol for his job, Paul notices a young homeless man who's also a drug addict behaving strangely. Paul follows him and gives chase when the man tries to run away. Eventually, Paul catches him. The addict tells Paul that he was only trying to open the door because he'd lost his keys, not because he was stealing anything. Before searching him, Paul asks if there's anything in his pockets that could hurt him, and the man says no. But when Paul searches him, something sharp cuts his hand, so he punches the man, knocking him unconscious. He then realizes that the camera was recording, and he tries to wake the man, telling him to run and warning him never to cross his path again. A little while later, Paul gets a message from Justine Candy asking him to meet her at the bar. Unfortunately, Paul drinks, sleeps with Candy, cheats on his wife, and heads home drunk. He discovers that his wife has returned from her trip and made him a surprise so they could spend some nice time together. And his wife is shocked when she sees that Paul is drunk and exhausted. And we then understand why she went and fought with Candy at the supermarket. After that, Paul goes to his job, and when he leaves, he finds the drug-addicted boy has come to the police station. So, he chases him because he had warned him not to see him again. And to understand why the drug-addicted boy, whose name is James, came to the police station on his own, we go to the fourth chapter of the film and get to know him. Chapter 4. James is just a thief who tries to steal anything. And we also learn through a phone call with a friend of his that he can't pay the rent and is forced to enter through the window so the landlord won't see him. He tries to open several cars until one opens for him and he steals it. Inside it are the belongings of a small boy, so he goes to the scrap shop to sell them, but the worker refuses to buy them from him. After that, he goes to a house and tries to get in through the window because he hasn't paid the rent and is afraid of the landlord. Here, Paul appears and chases him, and James thinks he is chasing him because of the belongings he stole from the car. What happened between James and Paul happens, and the latter warns him not to see him again. We then see James later trying to steal a house, and that house happens to be Alex's house. James climbs up and enters the house from the upper floor. And when he goes down to the lower floor to steal, he is surprised to see a man and a woman sitting on the couch without making any movement, as if they were mummified, and with no expression on their faces. James is reassured that they won't be able to do anything to him, and continues stealing in the kitchen, taking many forks and spoons. He hears a sound in the basement, and when he goes down to see what's there, he is surprised to find all the children who had disappeared inside. A person appears chasing him, but he manages to escape and goes to sell the spoons and forks to the scrap shop worker. And there he sees that there's a $50,000 reward for anyone who helps find the missing children. And so he decides to go to the police station to report them. There, Paul sees him, and the chase between them begins. James runs into the forest where he sees a strange-looking woman signaling to him. He goes inside a tent to hide, and Paul finds him. Paul is about to finish him off, but James confesses that he knows where the children are. Paul takes him and goes to the house to see for himself what's going on. He leaves James tied up in the car and goes into the house. By nightfall, Paul still hasn't returned. James is surprised when the car door opens and Paul comes to attack him, dragging him toward the mysterious house. We then move to the 5th chapter of the movie, which tells the story of Marcus, the school principal. We see him talking to Justine on the phone, and Justine tells him that she went to the boy Alex's house and saw some scary-looking people inside. But Marcus tells her to forget about it and leave everything to the police investigators. Later at the school, a strange and weird-looking woman comes to him. This strange woman tells him her name is Gladys and that she is Alex's aunt. She came some time ago to live with them because Alex's parents are sick, and she is taking care of them since they are unable to take care of themselves. She tells him that the disease they have is tuberculosis. Still, Marcus refuses to talk to her about anything. The next day she goes to Marcus's house, claiming she is so thirsty she is about to collapse, and asks to drink water and use the bathroom. They allow her inside, but Gladys performs a strange ritual with an object in her hand. What's even stranger is that she uses the object on herself, which terrifies Marcus and his roommate. Gladys then tricks his roommate and cuts a lock of his hair, tying it to the magical object she has. And as soon as she breaks it, Marcus attacks his roommate. A terrifying change comes over Marcus, and he doesn't stop until he kills his roommate. All while Gladys watches coldly without any hint of emotion. That's when we realize she's the main villain of the movie. Anyway, Marcus keeps running for a very long distance in the exact same way the missing kids ran. By the way, this is the same running style as characters in the anime Naruto. Marcus attacks Justine and Archer steps in to defend her. This happens at the same time Archer runs into Justine at the gas station. Justine runs away, but Marcus keeps chasing her. When he corners her inside the supermarket, Archer saves her at the last moment. Justine Candy rushes outside, but Marcus gets up and chases her again. She manages to escape by car, and Marcus keeps running after her, while Archer tries to catch up in his own car. The surprise comes when a car suddenly hits Marcus as he's crossing the intersection. That night, after Archer and Miss Candy or Miss Justine leave the hospital following their medical treatment, Candy thanks Archer for saving her multiple times and tells him she's never seen anything like this in her life. Archer also tells her that Marcus's running style was strange, the same as the kids who ran from the house toward the forest. He shows her on the map that he figured out all the kids ran in the same direction toward the same goal. Justine says, "Oh my god, that's the direction of Alex's house." We then move to the 6th chapter of the film, which tells Alex's story. Alex is just an ordinary student in a regular school, and his father waits for him every day to take him home. We see that Alex's parents are completely normal, living together with him as a peaceful, loving family, until one day, Alex discovers that his aunt, Gladys, whom he hasn't seen or heard of in 15 years, has come to live with them in the house. The next day, Alex tells his father that he doesn't feel comfortable around her. His father drops him off at school safely and promises to pick him up at the end of the school day. We see that Alex's classmates bully him and treat him badly, which could feed a desire for revenge against them. When Alex leaves school, he doesn't find his father waiting for him as usual, so he has to walk home on foot. What's even stranger is that when he gets home, he finds his parents talking in a cold, emotionless way, as if they were under a spell. That's when his aunt Gladys, the very strange woman, appears. One day the whole family is sitting together at the dining table, and Aunt Gladys asks Alex to promise her that he won't tell anyone about what's happening in their house. To scare him, she says, "Watch me now," and performs magic with the stick she's holding, just like she did before, making his parents stab themselves with forks. Alex is terrified and tries to stop them. But then, Aunt Gladys uses her magic again to stop them. She tells him, "Look, Alex, if you care about your mom and dad, don't you dare mention to anyone anything I do or anything that happens in this house. Promise me you won't tell a soul, or I'll make your parents destroy themselves in front of you, just like you saw." Now, Alex spends his days taking care of his parents and feeding them himself because he loves them and is deeply protective of them. Days pass, and one day he sees Aunt Gladys looking very sick. Gladys tells Alex that she has a serious illness and nothing can cure her. She thought his parents might be able to heal her, but that didn't happen. She tells Alex that he can help her and help his parents at the same time if he wants them to return to normal. She asks him to bring her something from the home of each student in his class, and in return she promises to make his parents recover and be well again. Naturally, Alex agrees for two reasons. First, because he loves his parents and wants to save them, and second, because he doesn't like his classmates since they bully him. So he goes back to class during gym period and takes the drawings his classmates made. He returns home and gives the drawings to Aunt Gladys. At night, he watches her perform her magic. And as soon as the clock strikes 2:17 a.m., we see that all the kids from his class leave their homes at the exact same time, heading toward the house of Alex and Aunt Gladys. You might be wondering why Gladys did this to the kids. Dear viewer, I'll explain everything at the end of the summary. Don't worry. The next day we see Alex alone in the classroom, and the events unfold just like we saw at the start of the movie. Investigations take place at the police station, but Aunt Gladys gets through them without issue. That night, Gladys tells Alex that the investigators are coming tomorrow, so they need to be ready. They tidy up the house, check the covered windows, and also hide the kids very well, so the investigators fail to discover anything. Days pass, and Alex remains sad, taking care of his parents, and even feeding his classmates himself to keep them alive. One day he comes home and finds Paul there in the same cold, emotionless state as his parents. Let's call it cold blood. He also sees James there. Aunt Gladys tells Alex, "Pack your things. We're leaving the house tomorrow, and whatever you do, don't cross the salt." That night we see Justine and Archer sitting in a car, clearly having been watching the house for a while. They're worried because Paul and James still haven't left the house. They decide to go in and investigate for themselves. Inside, everything starts to unravel. Paul and James attack them, leading to a fight. Meanwhile, upstairs, Alex crosses the salt, which causes his bewitched parents to attack him. He locks the door and tries to stop them from getting in. The battle between Archer and Justine against James and Paul ends with the victory of the good side. Archer goes down to the basement and finds the children, but Gladys appears and casts a spell on him, making him attack Justine. At that moment, Alex, the clever boy, is using the same magic he saw Gladys using, and he manages to make all the children attack Gladys. That's exactly what happens, and the children chase Gladys, who tries to escape from them from one place to another, but fails. At the same time, Archer regains consciousness and lets go of Justine, who goes upstairs to look for Alex. We see that the children have succeeded in finishing off the witch, Gladys, but they are left in a state of mental and emotional shock. The movie ends with a voiceover telling us that Alex's father and mother have still not recovered, and that some of the kidnapped children could not speak until a year later.